Welcome back to Zcoins. Today we are diving into the world of United States pennies, but not just any pennies. We are talking about Abraham Lincoln pennies that are worth way more than just 1 cent. Some of these little copper pieces have sold for thousands and even millions of dollars at auction, so grab your magnifying glass and get ready as we count down the top 5 most valuable Abraham Lincoln pennies that could be hiding in your pocket right now. Stay until the very end because number 1 will absolutely blow your mind. Let us get into it. We are diving deep into the story of one small coin that might just be worth a lot more than you think. That's right, we're talking about the 1975 1-cent penny. It might look like any ordinary piece of change, but stay tuned because this coin carries a fascinating backstory, and in some rare cases, it could be worth a significant amount of money. Let's start with the basics. The 1975 penny is part of the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, which ran from 1959 until 2008. This design features the profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. It was struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If you look closely under the date on most coins, you'll find a small letter DRS which represents the mint mark for Denver or San Francisco respectively. If there's no mint mark, the coin was struck in Philadelphia. Now, in 1975, the United States Mint produced over 5 billion Lincoln pennies. Yes, you heard that right, billions. More than 4.5 billion came from Philadelphia, around 4.5 billion from Denver, and over 200 million from San Francisco. That massive mintage means most 1975 pennies are still extremely common and you can still find them in circulation today. So what makes a 1975 penny special? Here's where it gets interesting. Most of these coins are only worth face value, 1 cent. But the value jumps significantly when we start looking at condition, grading, errors, and mint varieties. Let's talk about condition first. A 1975 penny in average circulated condition, the kind you find in your pocket or your piggy bank, is only worth about 1 cent. But in uncirculated condition, or what collectors call mint state, the value can rise. A bright red 1975 penny graded MS65 by PCGS or NGC, which are 2 top grading services, could fetch between $5 and $15. Not bad for a coin that's almost 50 years old and cost only 1 cent. Now let's dig deeper into proof coins. The San Francisco Mint struck proof coins specifically for collectors. These 1975 proof pennies were not intended for circulation and have a shiny mirror-like surface. If you have one in its original government packaging, or even better, in a high certified grade like PR69 or PR70, it could be worth anywhere from $10 to over $50 depending on the grade and market demand. But now we get to the really exciting part: error coins. These are coins that left the mint with some kind of production mistake. Collectors go crazy over rare errors, and some 1975 pennies have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars because of these unique mistakes. Some of the most valuable 1975 penny errors include double die obverse, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and coins struck on the wrong planchet. A doubled die is a type of error where the design appears doubled, and it's most noticeable in the lettering or the date. These can be hard to spot if you don't know what to look for, but if you find one in great condition, you could be holding a coin worth hundreds of dollars. Another error is the off-center strike, where the design is noticeably misaligned. The more dramatic the off-center strike, especially if it's more than 50% off and still shows the full date, the more valuable it is. These coins can sell for $50 to several $100 depending on the severity and condition. There have also been confirmed examples of 1975 pennies struck on dime planchets or foreign coin blanks. These wrong planchet errors are extremely rare and highly collectible. One such coin sold for more than $900 at auction. You might be wondering how to know if your 1975 penny is worth money. The best way to start is by checking the condition. Coins that are bright red and shiny with no wear are the most desirable. Next, check for a mint mark. Then, look closely for signs of errors like doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual weights. If you think you found something rare, consider getting your coin graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. They can authenticate your coin and assign it a grade which greatly affects its value. Be sure to research the grading cost though. It's not cheap, and usually only worth it if your coin could be worth at least a few $100s. So what's the bottom line? Most 1975 pennies are common and only worth 1 cent. But if you have one in pristine mint state condition, or better yet, if you've discovered a rare error or proof variety, you could be sitting on a coin worth $20, $50, or even hundreds of dollars. Some coins have even broken the $1,000 mark under the right circumstances. To wrap it all up, always check your change. You never know what's hiding in your penny jar or stuck between the couch cushions. A little knowledge, a magnifying glass, and a careful eye might turn pocket change into a payday. Today we're going to dive into the world of coin collecting and take a close look at one of the most common yet surprisingly interesting coins in circulation, the 1977 Lincoln penny. That's right. This small copper 1-cent piece could be worth much more than face value, and today we're going to find out why. So if you have a jar of old pennies lying around at home, or maybe a stash of coins you've been meaning to go through, this is your chance to learn why that little brown coin marked with a D from 1977 might just be a hidden treasure. Let's start with a bit of background. The Lincoln penny has been in circulation since 1909, when it was first introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent became the first U.S. coin to feature a real person on the obverse or front side. Over the decades, the design has changed slightly, especially on the reverse or back side, but in 1977 it still featured the classic Lincoln memorial design by Frank Gasparo, which had been introduced in 1959. Now the D on the coin stands for the Denver Mint, where the coin was struck. In 1977, the Denver Mint produced over 4.2 billion Lincoln pennies. Yes, that's billion with a B. Because of that high mintage, the average 1977 D penny isn't rare. In fact, if you find one in your pocket change, it's probably only worth a cent. But as every coin collector knows, not all coins are created equal. What makes some 1977 D pennies worth much more than face value comes down to three key things. First, condition. Second, errors. And third, rarity in higher grades. So let's break it down. First up is condition. If you find a 1977 D penny that has been kept in near perfect shape, never circulated, with no scratches, no wear, and a beautiful red luster, that coin could be worth several dollars, maybe even more. Collectors call these coins mint state, and they are graded on a 70-point scale. A coin graded MS65 or MS66 can fetch between $5 and $15 depending on the market. And if the coin grades MS67 or higher, the value can jump dramatically. One example of a 1977 D penny graded MS67 red by PCG is sold for over $200 at auction. That's quite a return on a 1-cent coin. Next up is errors. Error coins are always a hot topic in the collecting world, and the 1977 D penny has some known examples. Look out for double die errors, where the design appears to be doubled, especially in the lettering or Lincoln's profile. These can be hard to spot without magnification, but they are out there. Another error to look for is an off-center strike, where part of the design is missing because the coin was not properly aligned during minting. Then there's the clipped planchet error, which happens when the metal blank used to strike the coin is clipped before it's struck. These kinds of mint errors can raise the value of a penny from 1 cent to tens or even hundreds of dollars. There's also something called a repunched mint mark, which happens when the D mint mark is punched more than once and the impressions don't line up perfectly. These are subtle but can be valuable to collectors, especially in high grade. Now let's talk about rarity in high grades. While billions of 1977 D pennies were made, very few were preserved in pristine condition. Most were used and abused in circulation for years. That's why finding a coin that is not only error-free but also in gem mint condition is surprisingly hard. And when demand from collectors meets low supply, prices go up. So how can you tell if your 1977 D penny is valuable? First, give it a close look. Is it shiny and red like it just left the mint, or is it brown and dull from years of circulation? A red uncirculated coin will always be worth more than a brown one. Then look for any oddities. Check the lettering under a magnifying glass. Does it look doubled? Is anything missing? Is the strike off-center? Are there any weird cuts or shapes along the edge? Any of these signs might mean your coin is an error variety. Now for the current market value. As of this year in 2025, here's a quick breakdown of what your 1977 D penny could be worth. A regular circulated coin is still worth 1 cent. A coin in uncirculated condition graded MS65 might be worth $5 to $10. An MS66 can go for $15 to $30. An MS67 red example might sell for $200 or more. And if you happen to have an error coin or a high-grade variety slabbed and certified by a grading company like PCGS or NGC, the value can skyrocket. In rare cases, some 1977 D pennies have sold for over $500 due to high grade and rarity, but here's the thing. Value also depends on demand. Coin markets go up and down just like any other market. So if you have a high-grade coin or a confirmed error variety, it might be wise to get it appraised or even listed at auction while the demand is strong. Also remember to handle coins properly. If you think your coin might be valuable, do not clean it. Cleaning a coin can actually lower its value. Instead, use cotton gloves or hold it by the edges and consider storing it in a protective holder. Alright, let's wrap it up. The 1977 D Lincoln penny might seem ordinary, but it's far from worthless. In the right condition and with the right characteristics, this 1-cent coin could be worth hundreds of dollars. So next time you're going through your change jar or a coin roll, keep an eye out for that little D under the date and take a closer look. You just might strike copper gold. Where we talk about coins, collectibles, and hidden treasures sitting in your pocket change. Today we are diving deep into one of the most overlooked yet incredibly interesting coins in recent history, the 1980 D Lincoln 1-cent penny. That's right, this tiny coin, often dismissed as pocket change, could actually be worth a lot more than 1 cent. So stick around as we explore the fascinating history, mintage details, errors to look out for, and what this coin could be worth in today's market. Let's begin by going back in time to the year 1980. It was a time of transition in the United States. Ronald Reagan was about to be elected president. The Cold War was still very real. Inflation and economic shifts were influencing everything from gas prices to groceries to, yes, coin production. In this climate, the United States Mint was hard at work keeping up with the demand for coinage. And in that year, the Denver Mint struck one of the most commonly produced coins of that decade, the 1980 D Lincoln cent. First off, let's talk about the basics of the coin. The obverse or front side of the coin features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln. This design was created by Victor David Brenner, and it's the same one that has graced the front of every Lincoln cent since 1909. The reverse of the coin in 1980 still features the Lincoln Memorial, a design by Frank Gasparo that was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Now the D mint mark just below the date signifies that this penny was minted in Denver, Colorado. And believe it or not, the Denver Mint produced over 5 billion of these pennies in 1980. Yes, billion with a B. That sheer number would make you think these coins are worthless, right? But not so fast. While most 1980 D Lincoln cents are indeed worth face value, there are some that are worth much, much more. And that's what we're going to break down right now. Let's talk about what can make a 1980 D penny valuable. The first and most obvious factor is condition. Coins that are uncirculated, meaning they were never used in regular transactions and have no wear, can fetch a premium. Collectors use a grading scale called the Sheldon scale that goes from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS-60 is considered mint state, but a coin graded MS-65 or higher is where the real value starts to show. A pristine MS-67 red 1980 D penny has sold for over $1,000 at auction. Yes, you heard that right, $1,000 for a penny. That's because high-grade coins are rare. Even though billions were made, only a tiny fraction remain in perfect condition. Now let's get into the real treasure, error coins. Sometimes during the minting process mistakes happen. And these mistakes can turn a common coin into a collector's jackpot. Here are some errors to look for on the 1980 D penny. First, off-center strikes. This happens when the coin blank isn't properly aligned in the press. If the design is visibly off-center and the date is still readable, collectors will pay good money for it. Depending on how severe the error is, these can sell for anywhere from $20 to over $100. Second, doubled dies. This occurs when the die that strikes the coin has a doubling effect on the design. On the 1980 D penny, you want to look at areas like the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." If there's visible doubling, especially with sharp separation, you might be holding something worth hundreds of dollars. Third, repunched mint marks. Back in the day, the mint mark was punched into the die by hand. Sometimes it was punched more than once but slightly misaligned. These are known as RPMs or repunched mint marks. On a 1980 D penny, this could show up as a shadow or ghost D next to the main D mint mark. Values on these can range from $10 to over $50 depending on the severity. Fourth, broad strikes and clipped planchets. A broad strike means the coin was struck without the collar that gives it its shape. This results in a stretched or warped coin. A clipped planchet is when part of the blank was cut incorrectly and the coin is missing a chunk. These types of errors can easily bring in $20 to $100 depending on condition and I appeal. Alright, so we've talked about condition and errors, but what about the metal content? The 1980D penny is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. It weighs 3.11 grams. Starting in 1982, the composition changed to primarily zinc with a copper coating. So the 1980D is one of the last full copper pennies. That's important because copper has intrinsic value. At current copper prices, the melt value of a 1980D penny is over 2 cents. Now it's illegal to melt down pennies for metal value in the United States, but it still shows you that this coin is made of something real and valuable, unlike newer pennies. Now let's talk current market trends. As of this year, high-grade 1980D Lincoln cents certified by PCGS or NGC can sell for between $50 and $100 in MS65 condition. Anything MS67 red or above is rare and can sell for several hundred to even $1,000. Error coins can vary widely, but if you find a dramatic off-center or doubled die variety you're looking at real money, you might be wondering, how do you know if your penny is valuable? First, check the date and the mint mark. Make sure it's a 1980D. Then examine it under good lighting or a magnifying glass. Look for signs of doubling, misalignment, strange shapes, or anything that seems off. If you suspect you have something special, you can submit it to a coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. They'll authenticate and grade your coin, which helps you sell it for maximum value. Before we wrap up, let's go over a few quick tips for collectors and treasure hunters. Number 1, always check your pocket change. You never know what's out there. And number 2, keep a magnifying loupe handy. Errors can be small and hard to see. And number 3, store your coins properly. Use coin flips or holders to avoid scratches and damage. Number 4, educate yourself. Watch videos like this one and read coin guides. And number 5, never clean your coins. Cleaning actually lowers the value and damages the surface. So there you have it, the 1980D Lincoln cent. A coin that most people overlook but some savvy collectors know holds hidden value. Whether it's a high-grade example, a copper collectible, or an exciting error coin, this little penny proves that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest surprises. Where we dive deep into the fascinating world of coins, currency, and the hidden gems you might have in your pocket right now. In today's video, we are going to explore one of the most surprising modern coins in circulation, the 1984 1-cent penny. Now you may be thinking, how could a coin that says 1 cent ever be worth more than just a single penny? Well, stick around because you might be shocked to learn that this ordinary-looking coin could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars today, depending on certain key factors. Before we jump into the current market values, let us rewind and understand the backstory of the 1984 penny and why collectors are so interested in it. Let's start with the history of the 1984 penny. This coin is part of the Lincoln Cents series, which began back in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Since then, the Lincoln penny has gone through multiple design changes and metal compositions. The version minted in 1984 belongs to what is called the Lincoln Memorial Cent series. This design was introduced in 1959 and continued until the year 2008 before being replaced with a new reverse in 2009. Now here is an interesting fact, the 1984 penny was struck at 2 major mints: the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Coins from the Philadelphia Mint do not carry a mint mark, while the ones from Denver have a small D just under the date. Both of these versions are collectible, but what makes the 1984 penny stand out are its errors and varieties. Yes, this is where things get exciting. While millions of 1984 pennies were minted, over 8 billion to be exact, not all of them were made perfectly. In fact, one of the most sought-after varieties of the 1984 Lincoln cent is the 1984 doubled die obverse. That's right, a doubled die. This particular error happens during the minting process when the die that strikes the coin features a misalignment or doubling of the image. In the case of the 1984 penny, the doubling appears most notably on Lincoln's ear and parts of his beard and neck. So how can you spot this valuable variety? You'll want to take a close look at Lincoln's ear. On the doubled die version, it will look like Lincoln has 2 earlobes, a strong separation from the original ear outline. This error is visible even with a good magnifying glass and is quite dramatic. Coin collectors and grading services both recognize this error as a major variety. And here's the good news, these coins can be worth a lot of money. Let's talk about current market values. A normal 1984 penny in circulated condition is typically only worth its face value, just 1 cent. In uncirculated or mint state condition, say MS60 or above, these coins might sell for around 10 to 50 cents depending on the condition. Nothing too exciting. But the 1984 double die penny, that's a whole different story. In lower grades such as XF or extremely fine condition, this coin can sell for anywhere from $20 to $50. But if you happen to have one in higher grades like MS63 or MS65, the value shoots up dramatically. Coins graded MS65 red can bring in $300 to $600, and some premium examples have sold for over $1,000 at auction. In fact, in one notable case, a 1984 double die penny graded MS67 red by a top grading company sold for over $3,000. That's 300,000 times its face value. Just imagine finding one of these in your change jar or penny roll. So what makes the double die variety so valuable? It all comes down to a few factors. First, the error is easily visible to the naked eye, which makes it desirable. Second, it is an officially recognized variety by grading companies like PCGS and NGC, which boosts its credibility and collector interest. And finally, it is not as common as you might think. While some reports estimate that tens of thousands might exist, only a few hundred have been professionally graded in high mint state. Now, you might be asking yourself, do I need expensive equipment to check my pennies? The answer is no. All you need is a good light source, a basic magnifier, and patience. Start by going through your change, coin rolls, or old penny jars. Look specifically for 1984 pennies and then check Lincoln's ear for signs of doubling. If you think you have one, you might consider sending it to a grading company for authentication, but there are other things to look out for too. Occasionally, 1984 pennies might feature off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or other mint errors that can also add to their value. These error coins can range from $10 to several $100 depending on the severity and rarity. Another thing to keep in mind is color designation. When grading Lincoln cents, professional grading services use terms like red, red-brown, and brown to describe the color of the copper. A red coin, meaning it still has most of its original mint luster, is far more desirable than one that is toned to brown. A 1984 double die in brown might sell for $50 to $100, but the same coin in full red could easily fetch several times more. As the market for collectible coins continues to grow, prices may go even higher in the future. Rare varieties like the 1984 double die obverse will always have a place in collector circles due to their visual appeal, established demand, and documented sales history. Let's quickly recap. The 1984 1-cent penny is normally just a common coin. But the 1984 double die obverse variety is a valuable treasure. Look for doubling on Lincoln's ear and neck. If you find a strong double die in good condition, it could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Even circulated versions with clear doubling still sell for good money. And if your coin is in mint state in full red color, it could be a jackpot. So there you have it. Next time you get change from the store or go through a pile of old pennies, don't ignore the 1984 ones. That little copper coin might just be hiding a big secret. Where we dive into the fascinating world of coins, currency, and collecting. Today, we are talking about the 2006 1-cent penny, a coin that may look ordinary at first glance, but could be worth more than you think. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just found a shiny penny in your change jar, this is a video you won't want to miss. We're going to uncover everything you need to know about the 2006 penny. That includes its history, unique features, error varieties, and current market values. So let's get started. Let's begin with a quick overview of the 2006 penny. This coin is part of the Lincoln Memorial Series, which ran from 1959 until 2008. The D Mint mark means the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. That year, in 2006, over 4 billion pennies were minted in Denver alone. Yes, you heard that right, over 4 billion. So naturally, the vast majority of these coins are common and found in circulation, but here's where it gets interesting. Not all 2006 pennies are created equal. While most are only worth face value, a small number of them have errors or are in such exceptional condition that collectors are willing to pay a premium, sometimes a very large premium. Let's talk about the history first. The Lincoln Memorial Cent was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It replaced the wheat penny design. The obverse side of the coin still features Lincoln's profile, designed by Victor David Brenner. The reverse, showing the Lincoln Memorial, was designed by Frank Gasparo. This design stayed in place until 2008, when the series transitioned to the Lincoln Bicentennial Cents in 2009. The 2060 penny is made primarily of zinc, with a thin outer layer of copper. This copper-plated zinc composition was adopted in 1982 due to rising copper prices. Each coin weighs about 2.5 grams and measures 19 millimeters in diameter. Now let's talk about what can make this coin valuable. There are three major factors: condition, rarity, and errors. First, condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect coin with no imperfections under magnification. Most 2060 pennies found in pocket change will grade between 1 and 63, which generally have little to no collector premium. However, a 2060 penny that grades mint state 67 or higher can command a strong price at auction. In fact, one such coin graded MS68 red by PCG is sold for over $700. That's not bad for a 1-cent coin. Next, rarity. While the 2060 penny is not rare in general, high-grade examples with full red luster are much harder to find. Collectors look for coins that have been well preserved from the moment they left the mint, no scratches, no spots, and no signs of wear. Finally, we get to the most exciting part: error coins. These are the coins that make headlines. In 2006, several D-mint pennies were struck with errors that make them extremely collectible. Let's go through a few. One notable error is the double die obverse. This happens when the coin is struck with a die that has been misaligned or engraved twice. The doubling is often visible in the lettering, such as the word Liberty or the date. These coins can sell for anywhere from $50 to several $100 depending on how dramatic the doubling is. Another error to look for is off-center strikes. If a coin is not properly aligned when it is struck, the design can be shifted significantly, leaving part of the coin blank. A 2060 penny with an off-center error of 50% or more can easily fetch over $100, sometimes much more if the date is still visible. There are also coins with die cracks, cut errors, and even coins struck on the wrong planchet, such as a penny struck on a dime blank. These errors are rare, but they do exist and can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the specifics. Let's not forget about repunched mint marks. These occur when the mint mark is punched more than once in slightly different positions. A repunched D-mint mark on a 2006 penny is a known error, and some examples have sold for over $40. Now let's take a look at the current market. As of 2025, the value of a regular 2060 penny in circulated condition is still 1 cent. In uncirculated condition, especially with a grade of MS65 red or higher, values range from $5 to $25 depending on the grading service and market demand. Coins graded MS67 red can sell for $100 or more, while MS68 examples are extremely scarce and can bring $500 to over $700 at auction. Error coins vary widely in price. Minor doubling might bring $10 to $20, while dramatic double die errors can reach $200 to $500. Off-center errors, wrong planchet strikes, and other dramatic mint mistakes can fetch anywhere from $100 to over $1,000. So what should you do if you think you found a valuable 2060 penny? First, handle the coin carefully. Avoid touching the surfaces, and place it in a protective holder. Next, try to identify the error or determine its condition. You can use a magnifying glass or a coin microscope for closer inspection. If it looks promising, consider sending it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication. Keep in mind that not all errors or high grades will lead to a fortune, but some do. And that's the thrill of coin collecting. A single penny, easily overlooked in your change, could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Background music fades in. In conclusion, the 2060 penny is mostly a common coin, but hidden treasures do exist. From high-grade examples to rare errors, there's potential for profit if you know what to look for. Check your change, inspect your coin jars, and who knows, your next penny could be worth a lot more than 1 cent. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more coin collecting content, and leave a comment below telling us what rare coins you found. Until next time, happy collecting, and keep your eyes on your change.